Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our Pali Canon and English study group, and we study the words of the Buddha in this program. It's a 1.5-year program where we study volumes 2 through volumes 13 of this book series, The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden. Our group learning program, which meets on Sunday and Wednesday, that's a 7-month program that goes through volume 1. We go chapter by chapter each Sunday, helping you to develop a foundation over the 7-month period. In this program, the Pali Canon and English study group, we go through volumes 2 through 13 in a 1.5 years. We slowly walk our way through, helping you to fully develop and fully build out the framework of your practice of the path to enlightenment as taught by the Buddha. We're going to be restarting this program on July 20th, which is about a month from now. You don't need to start at the very beginning of the program. You can actually join this program at any time, but it's sometimes nice to start at the very beginning, so some students like to do that. So you'll have an opportunity, and your friends and family will have an opportunity to do this in about a month from now. So whether you're joining us for the first time or you're joining regularly, I'd like to welcome all of you to our class today and invite you to study the words of the Buddha. The way that we do our class is I share a certain teaching from the Buddha. We read his actual words in the class, like a study group. And sometimes these chapters are maybe 1 page or even a paragraph or so. And then after someone reads it, either me or somebody in the class, then I share some teachings on that, maybe for 5 minutes or so, helping you to understand what the Buddha is teaching. He taught very clear, very concise, and very precise, but it helps to have a dedicated practitioner and teacher to be able to walk you through his teachings, because there's some teachings that are connected to other teachings, and it's helpful to be able to see what these other teachings are and how they're connected and how to integrate the teachings into your life. Because if you haven't studied the totality of the teachings, just looking at one particular chapter can sometimes be a bit challenging. So I'll share some teachings for about 5 minutes or so, helping you to understand how to reflect on that and integrate it into your life. And then I'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have. If you'd like to volunteer to read and you're in Zoom, you're welcome to electronically raise your hand, and you're welcome to read any of the chapters. And then as you'd like to ask questions, whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put that into the comment section or electronically raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. So again, welcome to our class today. If this is the first time you're joining, then no worries, because sometimes students will read these books prior to class, because what you have in each one of these chapters, you have the words of the Buddha all the way through. Then you have the reference back to the original source teachings, so you can see in the Pali Canon where that came from. And then you have reflections from me to be able to help you understand how to integrate this into your day-to-day life. And you can acquire these books by going to buddhadailywisdom.com, and you can download them from there. You can take it and go print it if you like once you have that file, or you can order it through Amazon if you have access to Amazon. And we even have printed versions here at the temple in Chiang Mai, where you can essentially reimburse us for our printing cost, and you'll be able to acquire a printed version that way. So if you're coming to classes and studying the words of the Buddha with us here, and you're reading the books, this is going to be the best and most ideal way for you to progress in this type of program. And you can attend live, or you can also listen to the replays when you're missing the replays, or when you're missing the live class, you can listen to the replays. So let's start with this first chapter, because today we're in volume 13, which is titled Generosity, and we're in chapters 41 through 50. This first chapter that we're studying today is titled Gifts of a Wholesome Person, Second Discourse. Monks, there are these 5 gifts of a wholesome person. What 5? 1. He gives a gift out of confidence. 2. he gives a gift respectfully. 3, he gives a timely gift. 4, he gives a gift unreservedly. 5, he gives a gift without injuring himself or others. 1. Because he has given a gift out of confidence, wherever the result of that gift is produced, he becomes rich, with great wealth and property, and he is handsome, attractive, graceful, possessing supreme beauty of complexion. 2. Because he has given a gift respectfully, wherever the result of that gift is produced, he becomes rich, with great wealth and property, and his sons and wives, slaves, servants, and workers are obedient, lend an ear, and apply their minds to understand. 3. Because he has given a timely gift, wherever the result of that gift is produced, he becomes rich with great wealth and property, and timely benefits come to him in abundance. 4. Because he has given a gift unreservedly, wherever the result of that gift is produced, he becomes rich with great wealth and property, and his mind inclines to the enjoyment of the 5 kinds of fine sensual pleasures. 5. Because he has given a gift without injuring himself or others, wherever the result of that gift is produced, he becomes rich with great wealth and property, and no damage comes to his property from any source, whether from fire, floods, kings, thieves, or displeasing heirs. These are the 5 gifts of a wholesome person. So here, this whole entire book is all about generosity, helping you understand the various aspects of building up your practice of generosity. And I've talked about what generosity is and all the different teachings leading up to this point. So if you haven't learned that yet, you're going to need to go back and look at the live classes, the recordings that I've made there, either on YouTube or on our podcast. We even have it in our Facebook group as well, because generosity is such an important, vital part of your practice to enlightenment. You wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without a practice of generosity. It's training your mind to let go and eliminate craving, desire, attachment, the cause of discontentedness. But here the Buddha is giving you 5 things to help you understand how to develop your practice of generosity. That you can give a gift out of confidence, respectfully, a timely gift, unreservedly, and without injuring yourself or others. And this is important aspects of developing your practice of generosity, where generosity is the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources, without any expectation of anything in return. Here, in each one of these aspects of your practice of generosity, the Buddha is sharing that when you give a gift, wherever the result is produced, you become rich, wealthy, with property, and then there's some other benefit that he's associating with it. It's important to understand that the Buddha is not motivating you to necessarily become rich and wealthy. He's just helping you to understand the cause and effect, or the natural law of Gotama, this action and result of if you make a certain decision to do something, there's going to be some result. You shouldn't practice generosity because you want to become rich, because in that situation, you're not actually practicing generosity because you still have a craving, a desire, an expectation. But instead, the Buddha is helping you to see this cause and effect, this natural law of Gotama, so that when you are practicing pure generosity and you see certain things happening, you'll understand that it's from the natural law of Gotama. That when you're putting out certain wholesome and wise decisions, then you're going to experience wholesome results. And whenever you're practicing generosity, you're giving and sharing, and this is why one can experience people giving and sharing to you. So that's why each one of these, in terms of practicing generosity, it produces this wealth and property. Not necessarily immediately, not necessarily in the next 6 months or year, but the Buddha is explaining to you that as you give and share and you practice generosity, people are going to be willing to do that with you as well. But then there's other qualities and other aspects of having practiced generosity with these certain practices and certain aspects of your practice that is producing certain benefits. So here he's saying, because you've given a gift out of confidence, that therefore wherever that gift matures and it produces benefits, you'll experience this handsome, attractive, graceful, possessing supreme beauty and complexion. This isn't mysterious and magical of what this is actually occurring, but instead, when you're giving confidently, your mind is calm and joyful, that you're giving a gift because you have confidence and you're calm and joyful. And when you're joyful, you're going to be more handsome, attractive, and beautiful. If you've ever looked in the mirror when you've been angry and disgruntled and agitated, you look kind of mean and nasty and maybe unbeautiful, right? And you're lacking beauty in that situation. But when you can practice generosity, you can be joyful and confident and calm in practicing generosity. And this produces attractiveness in the face, because the body is the employee and the mind is the boss. And whatever's going on in the mind is going to produce certain results in the body. So when your mind is joyful, thus calm and confident, like the Buddha is describing here, you're going to have more handsomeness and more beauty in your complexion and the way you appear to others. Then the second one, the Buddha is talking about giving a gift respectfully. Well, when you're respectful to the people around you and you're giving gifts to people respectfully, what the Buddha is saying is the people around you are going to also treat you in respectful ways. Here he's talking about your children, your life partner, any kind of employees and things like this. And he's talking about certain people that were around people during that lifetime. So notice he's mentioning slaves and servants and things like this. He's not saying you should have slaves or servants. He's just teaching the people that were there during that lifetime and they had slaves and servants. So he was teaching people that, okay, these employees, essentially these workers, are going to be respectful to you because you're being respectful to other people. So if you're putting out respectfulness and politeness and kindness, people are going to experience that from being around you, and now that's what's going to be coming back to you. And conversely, if you're hostile and bitter and harsh and irritated and nasty and grumpy, that's what's going to come back to you as well. So you would like to be able to practice where you're giving and practicing generosity respectfully as you give gifts to individuals. Then the Buddha talks about a timely gift here. What a timely gift is whenever you're giving a gift that somebody can use in a particular time frame. So for example, let's just say your child was going on a hiking trip or a camping trip and you gave them a flashlight as a gift. This is a timely gift because they're going to be able to use it right away. Or say that, like, sometimes we go out with drivers that are driving a van or driving a truck and it's pretty hot outside. So as we walk around the temple for an hour and a half, 2 hours, we might get ourselves a bottle of water. And we also buy the drivers a bottle of water and we offer that to them. And this is a timely gift because they need it. They need water in that particular instance. So the Buddha is saying, okay, when you give this timely gift, that timely benefits come to him in abundance. So for example, when we have these drivers and we give them this timely gift that they need this water, I don't give them this gift because of this reason, but what I notice is they were on time. They pick us up on time. They're at the location that they drop us and then they come back and pick us up. They're on time, right? Because there's these benefits of coming to us because we're giving a timely gift. They practice in the same way. Then because a gift has been given unreservedly, meaning that the mind is lacking selfishness, that you're willing to give and share, the Buddha is saying that you experience the enjoyment of these 5 kinds of fine sensual pleasures. If you were giving reservedly, that would mean that there's still some selfishness in the mind. But when you're giving unreservedly, that means you're not practicing any kind of selfishness. But you still need to practice generosity from the middle way. If you were giving extensively with craving, desire, attachment, you wouldn't have the basic needs that you need in order to sustain your life. But also, if you weren't ever giving, if you were reserved in your giving, your mind is quite selfish. So you're not interested in living on any side of those. You're interested in being in the middle, where you're being attentive to the decisions that you're making about generosity, ensuring that you're taken care of and the people around you are taken care of. But then practice generosity with people so that you're giving and sharing. You're not selfish. Then the Buddha says, giving a gift without injuring himself or others. What this means is, like I was just sharing, that you're not injuring yourself, that you have the basic needs that you need for yourself, but also in terms of injuring others, if you were to steal something from others and then give that as a gift, that would be unwise. But because you choose as a wholesome person to give gifts where you're not injuring others, you're not stealing from others, you're not doing harmful things to yourself and others, the Buddha is sharing with you, okay, this is the benefit of that. So he's showing you this cause and effect. He's not trying to incentivize you to do anything. He's not trying to force you or convince you to do anything. Remember, he was already rich. He was a prince destined to become a king, and he walked away from that. But he knew that generosity is what led to the improvement to the condition of his mind in order to get to enlightenment. And that's what he had to practice in order to get to enlightenment. So that's why he's sharing that with you, because you're going to need to practice generosity as well in order to be able to get to enlightenment, where you're training your mind to live open-handedly and be joyful in giving and sharing. This trains your mind to let go. And you would like to be able to do this frequently throughout your day, where it's not just once a year that you're practicing generosity, or once a month, or once every 6 months, but daily that you're practicing generosity. And this is going to provide the mind the best opportunity to let go, let go, let go, just like breathing mindfulness meditation. Frequency is more important than the actual amount of time, effort, energy, or resources. So let me know what questions you guys have here. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. All right, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So I'm going to move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 42. This one is titled, A Wholesome Person is Born for the Good, Welfare, and Peacefulness of Many People. Monks, when a wholesome person is born in a family, it is for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of many people. It is for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of his mother and father, his wife and children, his slaves, workers, and servants, his friends and companions, his departed ancestors, the king, the heavenly beings, and ascetics and Brahmins. Just as a great rain cloud nurturing all the crops appears for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of many people, so too, when a wholesome person is born in a family, it is for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of many people. It is for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of his mother and father, his wife and children, his slaves, workers, and servants, his friends and companions, his departed ancestors, the king, the heavenly beings, and ascetics and Brahmins. The wise person residing at home truly lives for the good of many. Day and night, diligent toward his mother, father, and ancestors, he respects them in accordance with the teachings, remembering what they did for him in the past. Firm in confidence, the devoted man, having known their wholesome qualities, respects the homeless ascetics, the ascetics who lead the spiritual life, beneficial to the king and the heavenly beings, beneficial to his relatives and friends, indeed, beneficial to all. Well established in the wholesome teachings, he has removed the stain of selfishness and fares on to a heavenly world. When a person supports his parents and respects the family elders, when his speech is gentle and courteous, and he refrains from argumentative words, when he strives to remove meanness, is truthful, and eliminates anger, the Tavastisama heavenly beings call him truly a wholesome person. So here the Buddha is explaining how it helps a community to have a wholesome, wise person functioning. This is where I've described that having enlightened beings in your community is the very best thing that could ever happen, because just that person going around and being polite, kind, friendly, respectful in the various businesses and various personal conversations and relationships, this is spreading the light throughout the world, because more and more people see that you can be cheerful. You don't have to be grumpy and irritable and nasty and grieving and sorrowful and having displeasure and complaining all the time. You can experience this uplifted and bright mind, where going around the world as an enlightened being, or here the Buddha is just talking about a wholesome being, this is very wonderful for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of many people, because they're interacting with people and they're not causing harm to others. And the Buddha provides an analogy here where he talks about this rain cloud nurturing the crops. And this is for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of many people, because many people can eat this food and benefit from the crops. And so too, if somebody is practicing the wholesome way found in these teachings, they're not causing harm to others. And this is for the good, welfare, and peacefulness of many people. Because as you're causing less and less harm in the world, people are having to deal with less and less harm from you. And now you're giving people freedom from fear and calamity and difficulties in the world because you're not causing harm, and now harm isn't going to come back to you. So let me know what questions you guys have on this chapter. You can put it into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. All right, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere, so I'm going to move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 43. This one is titled Fragrance. Oh, Yihang, are you interested in reading, or did you have a question?
Yeah, I can read this one.
Oh, perfect. Go ahead, ma'am.
A fragrance of wholesome people spreads against the wind. Here, Ananda, in whatever village or town, a man or a woman has gone for refuge to the Buddha, the teachings, and the community. He or she is virtuous, practicing moral conduct, and of wholesome character, abstaining from the destruction of life, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, false speech, and liquor, wine, and intoxicants, substances that cause heedlessness, the basis for heedlessness, and he or she resides at home with a mind free of the stain of selfishness, freely generous, open-handed, joyful in letting go, devoted to charity, joyful in giving and sharing. In such a case, ascetics and Brahmins in all quarters speak praise, saying, in such and such a village or town, a man or a woman has gone for refuge to the Buddha, the teachings, and the community. He or she is virtuous, practicing moral conduct and of wholesome character, abstaining from the destruction of life, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, false speech, and liquor, wine, and intoxicants, substances that cause heedlessness, the basis for heedlessness, and he or she resides at home with a mind free of the stain of selfishness, freely generous, open-handed, joyful in letting go, devoted to charity, joyful in giving and sharing. The heavenly beings and the spirits, too, speak praise, saying, in such and such a village or town, a man or a woman has gone for refuge to the Buddha, the teachings, and the community. He or she is virtuous, practicing moral conduct and of wholesome character, abstaining from the destruction of life, taking what is not given, sexual misconduct, false speech, and liquor, wine, and intoxicants, substances that cause heedlessness, the basis for heedlessness, and he or she resides at home with a mind free of the stain of selfishness, freely generous, open-handed, joyful in letting go, devoted to charity, joyful in giving and sharing. This Ananda is the fragrance that spreads with the wind, against the wind, and both with and against the wind. The fragrance of flowers does not spread against the wind, nor the fragrance of sandal, tagara, or jasmine. But the fragrance of wholesome people spreads against the wind. The wholesome people's fragrance fills all quarters.
Okay, thank you, Yihang. So here, the Buddha is essentially saying that when you choose to do wholesome things through your wisdom and making wise decisions, that your reputation is going to spread all throughout the community. That a flower or some other kind of fragrance, it only spreads in one direction based on the wind, right? But if you're doing wholesome things, you're making wise decisions, it's going to spread throughout the community. And you shouldn't be doing those wise and wholesome things because you want a good reputation, because that's still craving, desire, attachment. And there's not going to be a time in your life when everybody thinks that you're a great person. That would be permanence. You're going to have people that hate you and that think you're horrible and despise the fact that you're so wise and wholesome, perhaps, if you're doing wholesome things. So you shouldn't be doing these wise and wholesome things because of something that you want, but the Buddha is just helping you see this cause and effect, this natural law of karma, that as you practice these teachings closer and closer, it's going to spread throughout your personal life and throughout your professional life, and you're going to build a reputation for yourself that really helps you, that helps you to develop relationships and helps you to develop the professional conduct and professional opportunities that you need to be successful in the world. Whereas if you were the opposite, if you were disgruntled and angry and bitter and harsh because of your lack of wisdom and you're doing unwholesome things, that's going to spread too. That's going to spread, and people are not going to be interested in engaging with you on a personal level or a professional level. So the Buddha is just helping you see the cause and effect, but then you know that and you put that in the back of your mind, and then you just learn what is wise and you do those wise things and those wholesome things. But as you see yourself getting a better and better reputation in your community, both personal and professional, you'll understand why. It's because you're choosing to function wisely through wisdom, and you're doing wholesome things and you're not causing harm to others. So let me know what questions you guys have here. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So we'll move on to the next one, which is chapter 44. This one is titled, oh, go ahead, Yihang.
Yeah, I can also read.
Sure.
When unwholesome monks are strong, wholesome monks are weak. Monks, when robbers are strong, kings are weak. At that time, the king is not at ease when re-entering his capital, or when going out, or when touring the outlying provinces. At that time, Brahmins and householders, too, are not at ease when re-entering their towns and villages, or when going out, or when attending to work outside. So, too, when unwholesome monks are strong, wholesome monks are weak. At that time, the wholesome monks sit silently in the midst of the community, or they resort to the outlying provinces. This is for the harm of many people, for the unhappiness of many people, for the ruin, harm, and suffering of many people, of heavenly beings and human beings. Monks, when kings are strong, robbers are weak. At that time, the king is at ease when re-entering his capital, and when going out, and when touring the outlying provinces. At that time, Brahmins and householders too are at ease when re-entering their towns and villages, and when going out, and when attending to work outside. So too, when wholesome monks are strong, unwholesome monks are weak. At that time, the unwholesome monks sit silently in the midst of the community, or they depart for other regions. This is for the welfare of many people, for the peacefulness of many people, for the good welfare and peacefulness of many people, of heavenly beings and human beings.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So here, when the Buddha is talking about when unwholesome monks are strong, or when he talks about when kings are strong, what he's talking about is the qualities of your mind, your wisdom, and how well you're practicing. Where when robbers are strong, he's saying kings are weak, meaning the robbers are out there practicing their craft, which is robbing and stealing from people. When they're really strong and doing that heavily, he's saying the kings are weak, meaning they don't have much power to stop this because they're not necessarily taking action to do things that would benefit the local community. And the same thing the Buddha is saying is true about the ordained practitioners, that when unwholesomeness from ordained practitioners is really strong and there's lots of unwholesome ordained practitioners in a community, then the wholesome ordained practitioners are weak, meaning they're not really practicing the teachings closely, and now this is harmful to the community, that people can't see the example of how to practice these wholesome teachings well because there's not very many wholesome monks or ordained practitioners that are out and about and practicing. So it's for the harm and unhappiness of many people. But conversely, the Buddha is saying, okay, when the kings are strong, robbers are weak. They're not able to steal because the kings are very strong. And likewise, when wholesome monks are strong, when there's many of them and they're practicing the teachings very closely, the unwholesome ordained practitioners are weak. And now the teachings can be shared and can be observable by many people in the community. And the Buddha is saying this is good for the welfare of many people and peacefulness of many people because they have good examples to follow. So it's really important to maintain a strong, vibrant community of wholesome practitioners so that as new practitioners are entering into the community, then they can see how to practice the teachings very well, where there's politeness, kindness, friendliness, and respect, where you're practicing all the 8 factors of the Eightfold Path. You guys are training your mind very closely. Then by having these wholesome teachings being practiced by many people, the community is very strong, whether it's ordained practitioners or a mixture of ordained practitioners and household practitioners. As new people enter into the community, this strength of the wholesome, wise individuals will support and encourage the new people coming in to also be the same. And then the unwholesome people who are into unwise things, they're very weak. They're on the fringes and they're not really part of the main core group of people who are practicing the teachings. So this is how you propel the teachings in a community, or they accumulate more and more benefit, almost like a snowball, becoming more and more voluminous. That the same thing is true as you have more and more volumes of people practicing the wholesome teachings, that will just continue to grow and grow and grow. So let me know what questions you guys have here on this particular teaching. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So we'll move to the next one, which is chapter 45. Okay, Yihang, go ahead.
Ways to eliminate unwholesome people. The chaplain replied, "Your Majesty's country is overrun by thieves. It is severely damaged. Villages and towns are being destroyed. The countryside is infested with criminals. If your Majesty were to tax this region, that would be the wrong thing to do. Suppose your Majesty were to think, I will get rid of this thieves of robbers by executions and imprisonment, or by confiscation, threats, and punishment by sending them away from the country. The disease would not be properly ended. Those who survived would later harm your Majesty's country. However, with this plan, you can completely eliminate the disease. To those in the kingdom who are engaged in cultivating crops and raising cattle, let your Majesty distribute grain and food for livestock. To those in trade, give capital. To those in government service, assign proper living wages. Then those people, being intent on their own occupations, will not harm the kingdom. Your Majesty's revenues will be great. The land will be tranquil and not overrun by thieves. And the people, with joy in their hearts, playing with their children, will reside in open houses."
Thank you so much, Yihang. So what the Buddha is talking about here is something I refer to as incentivizing the positive, or supporting the positive, encouraging the positive. What he's saying is, instead of taking the people that are into unwholesome things and punishing them, where people will revolt and be upset and angry, he's saying the people that are doing the wholesome things and the wise things, support them and encourage them, give them capital and financial support, give them food and grain for their cattle because they're doing wise and wholesome things. And then they'll be interested to do more and more wise and wholesome things because they see that they're being rewarded for that. Whereas if you just punish people, then there's kind of this negative energy. And not only can you look at this if you're like a leader of a business or a leader of a community of people or a population, like a mayor or a president or prime minister or a king or something like this, but you can even look at this and practice this on an individual level within your household. If you have kids or if you have a life partner or something like this, rather than constantly pointing out the unwise things that they're doing and punishing them, Instead, support the positive. 98% of the time when you're seeing your children, or say you're a teacher of elementary school children or any children at all, or any even college students, incentivize the positive. When you see them doing things wisely, encourage them and support them in that, and give them a certain amount of speech from you that is incentivizing that and encouraging them and letting them know that they're making wise decisions. Whereas if you only give them their attention when they're doing negative things, then they're going to keep doing those negative things because they want your attention. So what the Buddha is teaching you to do here is to accentuate the positive and support the positive. And you can do this, as the Buddha is talking about here, as a king or a prime minister or a president or a mayor of a town or something like this. But you can do this as a boss, if you were a boss at a company. But you can even do this as a parent in a household or something like this. So this is a very helpful teaching for you. And the cause and effect here is that by you accentuating the positive, the people around you are going to be more and more encouraged to do those positive things. So let me know what your questions are here. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So I'm going to move to the next chapter, which is chapter 46. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
The monks of Konsambi. At that time, a certain monk accused another monk that he had fallen into a wrongdoing and did not see that wrongdoing as a wrongdoing. He and a group of monks who took part with this monk carried out a formal act of suspension against that specific monk for not seeing the wrongdoing. Then there were also a group of monks who took the side of the suspended monk and sided with him. The community of monks was divided. They could not carry out the observance together. Now at that time, monks causing fights, causing arguments, falling into disputes in the dining hall in the middle of the house, behaved unsuitably towards one another in actions, in speech. They came to blows. Having expressed this disapproval of them, having given reasoned talk, the perfectly enlightened one addressed the monks, saying, "Enough, monks, no arguments, no fights, no contention, no disputing." When he had spoken thus, a certain monk who spoke what was not the teachings spoke thus to the perfectly enlightened one. "Venerable sir, let the perfectly enlightened one, the master of the teachings, wait. Venerable sir, let the perfectly enlightened one, unconcerned, live intent on residing in ease here and now. We will be held accountable for this argument, fight, contention, disputing." And the second time, the perfectly enlightened one spoke thus to these monks: "Enough, monks, no arguments, no fights, no contention, no disputing." And the second time, the monk who spoke what was not the teachings spoke thus to the perfectly enlightened one: "Venerable sir, let the perfectly enlightened one, the master of the teachings, wait. Venerable sir, let the perfectly enlightened one, unconcerned, live intent on residing in ease here and now. We will be held accountable for this argument, fight, contention, disputing." Then the perfectly enlightened one addressed the monks, setting Prince Dihavu's story as an example. Brahmadatta, the king of Kasi, had done him much mischief. He had killed the prince's parents, as Prince Dihavu had opportunity to show his anger by killing Brahmadatta. The king of Kasi, he thought of his father's last words: "Do not you, dear Dihavu, look close, for dear Digavu. Angry moods are not calmed by anger. Angry moods, dear Digavu, are calmed by non-anger. Do not look far means do not bear anger long. Do not look close means do not hastily break with a friend. Thus the life of Brahmadatta, the king of Kazi, was granted by Prince Digavu. Then Brahmadatta, the king of Kazi, gave back the prince's troops and vehicles and territory and storehouses and barns of grain, and he gave him his daughter. Now, monks, if such is the patience and gentleness of kings who wield the scepter, who wield the sword, herein, monks, let your light shine forth so that you who have gone forth in these teachings and discipline, which are thus well taught, may be equally patient and gentle. But none of these monks listened to the perfectly enlightened one. Then the perfectly enlightened one, having dressed in the morning, taking his bowl and robe, entered Kosambi for alms food. Having walked for alms food in Kosambi, bringing back his alms bowl after his meal, having packed away his lodging, taking his bowl and robe, and standing in the midst of the community, he spoke these verses. When all together they shout out, none feels unwise. Though the community is divided, one might think otherwise. With wandering wisdom, the wise one understands all the field of talk. With mouths wide open to full extent, what leads them on they know not. They who in thought argue this, that man has abused me, has hurt, has defeated me, has me devastated, these angers not calmed. They who do not argue this, that man has abused me, has hurt, has defeated me, has me devastated, in them anger is calmed. No, not by anger are angry moods calmed here and at any time, but by non-anger are they calmed. This is an ageless, endless natural law. People do not understand that here we are confused in life, in time, but they who herein do understand, thereby their fights are calmed. Criminals who injure and kill, steal cattle, horses, and wealth, who plunder the countryside, for there is unity. Who should there not be for you? If one finds a friend with whom to go forward, fascinated in the well-residing of these teachings, appropriately surmounting dangers, one and all, with joy go forward with him mindfully. Finding none appropriate with whom to go forward, none in the well-residing fascinated in these teachings, as king quits the conquered country, go forward lonely as a bull elephant in an elephant jungle. Better to go forward one alone. There is no companionship with the unwise. Go forward lonely, unconcerned, doing no evil as a bull elephant in an elephant jungle. Then the perfectly enlightened one, having spoken these verses as he was standing in the midst of the community, approached Balakalonakala village and the eastern bamboo grove. Along the way, he had met a few of his senior disciples. Walking on tour, in due course, he arrived at Parilia. The perfectly enlightened one stayed there at Parilia in the guarded woodland thicket at the root of the lovely salt tree. There was a large bull elephant named Parilia, approached the perfectly enlightened one. Having approached, he set out by means of his trunk drinking water for the perfectly enlightened one, and water for washing, and he kept the grass down. Then the perfectly enlightened one set out on tour for Savatthi.
If you need help, Yihang, just let me know. This is pretty long.
It's okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Then the household practitioners of Kosabi thought, these masters, the monks of Kosabi, have done us much mischief. The perfectly enlightened one is departing, harassed by these. Come, we should neither greet the masters, the monks of Kosambi, nor should we stand up before them, nor should we greet them with joined palms or perform the proper duties. We should not appreciate, respect, admire, or honor them, and neither should we give them alms food when they come to us. Thus, when they are neither appreciated, respected, admired, nor honored by us, will depart unappreciated, or they'll leave the community, or they will restore friendly relations for themselves to the perfectly enlightened one. Then, in due course, the monks of Kosambi arrived at Savatthi. They agreed to stop the dispute. The monk who had been suspended agreed that there was a wrongdoing and he had fallen. Those monks who were taking the side of the suspended one restored that monk. Since that monk has fallen and was suspended, but see and is restored, well then, monks achieve harmony in the community for settling that case. And thus, monks, should it be achieved, one and all should gather together. If the achieving of harmony in the community for settling this case is pleasing to the venerable ones, they should be silent. He to whom it is not pleasing should speak. Harmony in the community for settling that case is achieved by the community. Arguments in the community are put down. Fighting in the community is put down. It is pleasing to the venerable ones. Therefore, they are silent. Observance may be carried out at once. The training guidelines recited.
Okay, thank you, Yihang. That's a very long discourse. And so what we've got here is we've got a situation where the Buddha was among some of his students, and these ordained practitioners start to fight, right? And the Buddha says, hey, enough, no arguments, no fighting. And he's trying to help them to calm down. But of course, those individuals have to train their own mind. They have to gain composure themselves. The Buddha's just trying to help them see, like, hey, no fighting. And he does this once, then he does it a second time, and then ultimately he essentially gets up and walks away, and he leaves. And when he leaves, the household practitioners see that the monks are fighting and arguing, and they're not choosing to listen to the Buddha about how to conduct themselves. So ultimately, the household practitioners decide that they're not going to support them, because the Buddha leaves and he says these verses here. He kind of like gives them some teachings in verse form, and then he just kind of leaves. And now the household practitioners, seeing that the Buddha left, and those household practitioners were looking forward to learning from the Buddha, but now the Buddha isn't interested in being around all this arguments, right? Like, of course, his mind's calm and peaceful and joyful, but he's just choosing to walk away and go somewhere else. So the household practitioners are like, hey, we were interested in learning from the Buddha, and now these people are arguing, so the Buddha ended up leaving. So now those household practitioners decide, hey, we're not going to give these fighting ordained practitioners any food, because if we do, they're going to stay around here. Instead, we're not going to give them any food, and then that way they're going to have to move on and leave and go somewhere else, because we're not interested in that fighting being around here either. So ultimately, that's what they do, and the ordained practitioners who are fighting, they actually leave, and eventually they catch up with the Buddha, and they make apologies, and they understand that they had done some wrongdoing here, and now they learn and grow and develop from that. And of course, the Buddha's just like, okay, on to the next thing, right? So now this is where he's like, okay, let's recite the teachings. He's like, on to the next thing, because his mind's not shaken up by the fact that his students are arguing and festering. This is something that is experienced in a community that a teacher's students could potentially be arguing, because they're unenlightened and they're experiencing the difficulties and struggles. So that the teacher's role is to help them where they can, but not to judge them or look down on them or think negatively or badly of them, but just to move on, let the fight extinguish, because it is impermanent. And then later, when people have more calm minds, that's the opportunity for the teacher to then share some things that are going to actually be helpful to squash this. That's what the Buddha is ultimately talking about, that this thing needs to be squashed so we can move on to better things, which is learning the teachings and training your mind to actually get to enlightenment. So let me know what questions you guys have here. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So let's move on to the next one. Here, this is chapter 47. Oh, Yihang, you're ready to read some more. Okay, ma'am, go for it. Let's see how long this one is. About 2.5 pages. Do you have the energy?
Yeah, I do. But I was actually also a bit curious, why would the last chapter in the generosity content?
Because the Buddha is... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say it sounds to me like... No, I just didn't see the link.
Yeah, so the link here is that in this situation, the household practitioners are choosing not to practice generosity. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that, hey, there's some situations where you might choose to not practice generosity, and this can actually produce some benefit, whereby normally those household practitioners practicing generosity to share food with the people around them, that's their practice, and they would continue to do that. But in this situation, they're not practicing generosity, and it's producing wholesome results that these argumentative monks are moving on and going to restore their status with the Buddha, where the Buddha can understand that they're sorry for their wrongdoing.
So it's like wisely to choose practice generosity.
Yeah, because generosity is impermanent, right? Of course, you would like to have a practice of practicing generosity all throughout your day and all throughout your month, but there might be some situations where it's wise to not practice generosity, and the Buddha is giving you an example of that here.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Where should a gift be given? First discourse. Venerable Sir, where should a gift be given? Wherever one's mind is confidence, great king. But, Venerable Sir, where does what is given become of great fruit? This is one question, great king. Where should a gift be given? And this another. Where does what is given become of great fruit? What is given to one who is virtuous, practicing moral conduct, great king, is of great fruit. Not so what is given to an unwholesome person. Now then, great king, I will question you about this same point. Answer as you see fit. What do you think, great king? Suppose you are at war and a battle is about to take place. Then a Khattiya youth would arrive, one who is untrained, unskillful, unpracticed, inexperienced, fearful, terrified, frightened, quick to flee. Would you employ that man? And would you have any use of such a man? Surely not, venerable sir. Then a Brahmin youth would arrive, a Vesa youth, a Sudha youth, who is untrained, unskillful, unpracticed, inexperienced, fearful, terrified, frightened, quick to flee. Would you employ that man, and would you have any use for such a man? Surely not, venerable sir. What do you think, great king? Suppose you are at war, and a battle is about to take place. Then a Khattiya youth would arrive, one who is trained, skillful, practiced, experienced, brave, courageous, bold, ready to stand his place. Would you employ that man, and would you have any use for such a man? Surely I would, venerable sir. Then a Brahmin youth would arrive, a Vesa youth, a Sudha youth, one who is trained, skillful, practiced, experienced, brave, courageous, bold, ready to stand his place. Would you employ that man, and would you have any use for such a man? Surely I would, venerable sir. So too, great king, when a person has gone forth from the household life into homelessness, no matter from what clan, if he has abandoned 5 factors and possesses 5 factors, then what is given to him is of great fruit. What 5 factors have been abandoned? Sensual desire has been abandoned. Ill will has been abandoned. Complacency has been abandoned. Restlessness and worry have been abandoned. Doubt has been abandoned. What 5 factors does he possess? He possesses virtue, moral conduct of one beyond training, concentration of one beyond training, wisdom of one beyond training, liberation of one beyond training, wisdom and vision of liberation of one beyond training. He possesses these 5 factors. Thus, what is given to one who has abandoned 5 factors and who possesses 5 factors is of great fruit. As a king intent on waging war, would you employ a youth skilled with the bow, one imbued with strength and vigor, but not the coward on account of his birth? So even though he be of low birth, one should honor the person of noble conduct, the wise man in whom are established the virtues of patience and gentleness. One should build delightful sanctuaries and invite the learned to reside in them. One should build water tanks in the forest and causeways over rough terrain. With a confident mind, one should give to those of upright character, give food and drink and things to eat, clothing to wear and beds and seats. For as the rain cloud, thundering, covered in lightning with 100 crests, pours down its rain upon the earth, flooding both the plain and valley. So the wise man, confident learned, having had a meal prepared, satisfies with food and drink. The ascetics who live on alms, rejoicing, he distributes gifts and proclaims, "Give, for that is his thundering, like the sky when it rains, that shower of merit so vast, will pour down on the giver.
Okay, thank you, Yihang. So the Buddha teaches you, of course, to practice generosity, and there's an aspect of your practice of generosity that can produce merit, where you're giving and sharing to ordained practitioners, temples, teachers, people who are sharing the teachings, because this is making the teachings available to countless people to continue to learn and grow. This is called merit. Just regular generosity to any old person, this is needed as well in your practice, but a certain portion of your generosity should be towards the continued sharing of the teachings of the Buddha. And the Buddha is providing you guidance at different times in his teachings about the types of people to support. Because if you can imagine the people that are around a Buddha at the time of their life, there's countless people who are learning from a Buddha, and not all of them are learning closely. And the Buddha is giving you guidance about how to determine where to practice your generosity to produce merit. And he gives you all this guidance at different times, and then this book has a lot of those discourses. But here he's talking about an individual who's abandoned the 5 hindrances. These are the 5 hindrances to enlightenment. So if you understand what central desire, ill will, complacency, restlessness and worry, and doubt are, these are the 5 hindrances, and you can determine whether somebody has abandoned these or not. And the Buddha is saying, okay, this is an individual that would be wise to support and make offerings to, because they've eliminated these 5 hindrances to enlightenment. So either they're close to enlightenment or they're enlightened. Then he says, okay, find someone who possesses these 5 aspects or these 5 factors. And what he's talking about is someone who has virtuous moral conduct, meaning they're practicing wise moral conduct like right speech, right action, right livelihood, that their mind is concentrated beyond one of training, meaning that their mind is focused and concentrated, that they have wisdom beyond training, meaning that their mind is fully awake to the path to enlightenment and understanding what it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. This is called final knowledge. That liberation of one beyond training, meaning that the mind is actually enlightened, that it no longer experiences discontent feelings. So if you see someone angry and frustrated and bitter and harsh, their mind is not yet liberated. Then he says, wisdom and vision of liberation. What he's saying is that the person not only has wisdom, but they have wisdom and they can see very clearly of how to get to enlightenment. So this person would be able to share teachings because they have wisdom and they can see very clearly how to get to enlightenment and actually help other people. So the Buddha is saying this is the type of individual to support, and it would produce this great benefit because these individuals are going to be able to share the teachings in the world. And you coming in contact with a person like this would give you the opportunity to then learn and practice and develop your wisdom as well. So you're going to need to have a certain amount of wisdom to know how to determine if these things are true with someone that you're practicing merit and trying to produce merit, that you're going to need to identify these things. But then coming in contact with this person who's enlightened, essentially is what the Buddha is describing, but he's describing it in a unique way, then you would be able to learn wisdom of how to get to enlightenment yourself, which would be the very best thing that could ever happen for you, is to be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment. So let me know what questions you guys have here. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll move on to the next chapter. You can see the description of what I'm sharing here. This is chapter 48. Go ahead, Yihang.
Where should a gift be given? Second discourse. My family gives gifts, Venerable Sir, and those gifts are given to monks who are arahants or on the path to arahantship. Those who are forest dwellers, alms food collectors, and wearers of rag robes. Since householder, you are a household practitioner enjoying sensual pleasures, living at home in a house full of children, using sandalwood from Kazi, wearing garlands, scents, and ointments, and receiving gold and silver. It is difficult for you to know these are arahants, enlightened beings, or on the path to arahantship, enlightenment. If householder, a monk who is a forest dweller, is restless, puffed up, conceited, talkative, rambling in his talk, muddle-minded, lacking clear comprehension, unconcentrated, with a wandering mind, with loose sense basis, then in this respect, he is blameworthy, responsible for wrongdoing. But if a monk who is a forest dweller is not restless, puffed up, and conceited, is not talkative and rambling in his talk, but has mindfulness established, clearly comprehends, is concentrated, with singleness of mind, with restrained sense basis, then in this respect he is praiseworthy, deserving admiration, commendable. If a monk who resides on the outskirts of a village, if a monk who is an alms food collector, if a monk who accepts invitations to meals, if a monk who wears robes, or if a monk who wears robes given by householders is restless, puffed up, conceited, talkative, rambling in his talk, muddle-minded, lacking clear comprehension, unconcentrated, with a wandering mind, with loose sense basis, then in this respect he is blameworthy, responsible for wrongdoing. But if a monk who resides on the outskirts of a village, if a monk who is an alms food collector, if a monk who accepts invitations to meals, if a monk who wears red robes, or if a monk who wears robes given by householders is not restless, puffed up, and conceited, is not talkative and rambling in his talk, but has mindfulness established, clearly comprehends, is concentrated, with singleness of mind, with restrained sense basis, then in this respect he is praiseworthy, deserving admiration, commendable. Come now, householder, give gifts to the community. When you give gifts to the community, your mind will be confident. When your mind is confident with the breakup of the body, after death, you will be reborn in a good destination, in a heavenly world. Venerable Sir, from today onward, I will give gifts to the community.
Okay, thank you, Yihang. So here the Buddha is helping individuals to understand in a very rudimentary way how to determine whether someone is potentially enlightened. Because as an individual who hasn't necessarily studied the path to enlightenment very closely, and maybe you're looking to practice generosity and get used to practicing generosity with people who may be enlightened or very close to it, you're going to have a hard time to discern whether someone's enlightened or not, because you don't have much wisdom to understand what enlightenment is and how to determine that. So the Buddha is giving you a very basic rudimentary way to figure out whether someone's potentially enlightened. And he's talking about doing this in a non-judgmental way, but just looking at the qualities of an individual's mind. That if you're noticing that someone is restless, if they're puffed up and conceited, meaning boastful, they're talkative, rambling in their talk, maybe, kind of pointless, unbeneficial, unpurposeful speech. They have a muddled mind, meaning they're lacking concentration or clear comprehension. They're unconcentrated. Their mind is wandering all over the place. And when he's saying that they have loose sense bases, meaning they have craving and they're chasing after cravings, he's saying, this isn't somebody that you would be interested to support because they're not really deeply practicing the teachings. But he then goes on and he says, okay, when you're noticing that somebody does have these qualities where they're not restless, they're not puffed up or conceited. They're not talkative and rambling in their talk, but their mindfulness is established. They have clear comprehension. They're concentrated. They can practice singleness of mind, and their sense bases are restrained. He's saying this is the kind of individual to practice generosity with, because they're practicing the teachings closely, and that's going to bring great benefit to the community, because now the teachings can be shared widely in the community to be able to help many other people actually get to enlightenment. So let me know what questions you guys have here on this chapter. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere, so we'll go to chapter 49, and I suspect Yihang would like to read that one.
Do not prevent another from giving. Vacha. One who prevents another from giving a gift creates an obstruction and a stumbling block for 3 people. What 3? He creates an obstruction to 1, the donor's acquiring of merit, 2, to the recipient's gaining a gift, and 3, already he has harmed and injured himself. One who prevents another from giving gift creates an obstruction and stumbling block for these 3 people. But Vacha, I say that one acquires merit even if one throws away dishwashing water in a refuse dump or cesspit with the thought, may the living beings here sustain themselves with this. How much more then does one acquire merit when one gives to human beings? However, I say that what is given to one of virtuous behavior is more fruitful than what is given to an unwholesome person, and the most worthy recipient is one who has abandoned 5 factors and possesses 5 factors. What 5 factors has he abandoned? 1, sensual desire, 2, ill will, 3, complacency, 4, restlessness and worry, and 5, doubt. These are the 5 factors that he has abandoned. And what 5 factors does he possess? 1, the virtuous behavior, 2, concentration, 3, wisdom, 4, liberation, and 5, wisdom and vision of liberation of one beyond training. These are the 5 factors he possesses. It is in such a way, I say, that what is given to one who has abandoned 5 factors and possesses 5 factors is very fruitful.
Okay, thank you, Yihang. So this is essentially very similar to a previous discourse that we had just studied, but here what's going on at the beginning of this discourse is the Buddha saying, don't prevent other people from practicing generosity. Sometimes you might have a husband or wife or a friend or a partner who you're like, no, don't give that away, right? Or don't give that to somebody. If somebody's interested in practicing generosity, their mind's letting go. And the Buddha is saying, don't prevent somebody from doing that because you're harming these individuals. You're obstructing the donor from acquiring merit. You're obstructing the recipient from gaining a gift, and you're also harming yourself and harming your own ability to practice in a way that would be wholesome and wise. So the Buddha is encouraging you not to prevent somebody from practicing generosity. And then he goes on to say, okay, this is the type of individual that you would like to practice generosity with, which is what we covered in a previous chapter. So wherever you see people practicing generosity, whether it's your mom or dad or brothers and sisters, you would not be interested in having them to stop them from practicing generosity. But for example, if you see that your mom or dad are craving and practicing extensive generosity, maybe they're being scammed by a scammer, of course, you need to step in and talk to them and help them see what's going on. So you're going to need to be able to do that calmly and patiently. So when you see the teachings of the Buddha, it's not an all or nothing. It's not an absolute. It's not that you implement it without awareness of all these other things. You need to have this higher consciousness where you're thinking about what's happening. So if you saw your mom or your dad being scammed online and they're just giving and giving and giving, you're not going to say, okay, whatever, I'm not going to stop them from giving a gift and practicing generosity, right? That's not what what the Buddha is teaching you. You need to think through the decisions, and in some cases you might need to step in and talk to your parents or your grandparents about what's maybe transpiring. But the Buddha is saying in general, don't prevent somebody from practicing generosity. And then to find individuals that are having abandoned these 5 things and have cultivated these 5 factors that he's discussing here. Let me know what questions you guys have here. This is chapter 49. Looks like Yihang, you have a question?
It just reminds me a life case actually about stopping others practicing generosity, that I have encountered a colleague from the workplace. He is quite generous and practicing the generosity and inviting me. And I was saying like I like the chai he provides very much, and he was like he had a bunch of chai there in his office, and I can just like go and grab some if I would like. But it's like in a situation I feel like he's like in the upper level of the office. I was just feel like, I mean, of course I said yes and thank you at that time, but it's like in reality, in the action, I would probably not really go into his office to do that, because it's just supposed to be, it's like he's like so up higher and I'm like just new employer. Like in this case, would that be a stopping one's generosity?
No, you haven't stopped him from giving a gift, but in this case, you're choosing not to accept a gift. So preventing him would be like, say he would like to offer something to somebody else and you're like, no, don't give that away. Don't give that to somebody. You're preventing him from giving something. So you're not preventing him from giving something, but you're choosing not to accept his gift. That's different.
Okay, so that's like separate steps here.
Yeah, if you look at the second precept, the Buddha teaches you to accept what is given, so that when somebody does practice generosity with you, it's wise to accept that gift. And then if you're not going to use it, then give it to somebody else. One of the things I heard in your question there is you consider this person to be above you. While they may have a different title and they may have different seniority in the company, it wouldn't be wise for you to think of them as being above you. This is the conceit and the ego and the judgment. So instead, even though you're a new employee, just think of everybody as equal, because otherwise, if you put yourself below somebody, your mind will be shaken up and uncalm when you're around this person, and you won't be able to bring forth your wisdom to be able to perform well in the workplace. People who are in positions of authority and things like this, oftentimes they appreciate it when people treat them as just average, normal people. Of course, there are some people that have ego and they want people to admire them and these kinds of things. But what you're interested in doing is thinking of all people as being equal. That way, when you're around people, your mind can be steady and calm and unshakable.
I see. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I had the same situation when I was in college. I was working at a government agency, and there was a person who was pretty high up in the company. They used to have candy in their office, and they used to tell me, hey, anytime you'd like to have candy, come on in and get some candy. So I know what you're saying there, and I used to go in and get candy all the time.
Did you go in?
Yeah, they used to have M&Ms in there, and I like chocolate, so I used to go in there and have M&Ms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking maybe I should go in and just grab some, because it was really delicious chai.
Yeah, because they probably enjoy practicing generosity and they enjoy seeing that you're enjoying their gift. And this can help you build a relationship with the person. And it's nice to have people who are senior in the company to have relationships with.
Yeah, I can see. I feel he's quite generous to those other employees, also like employees like me also.
Yeah, it's really nice of him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would like to also read the next one if there is.
Sure. Let me just check to make sure if we have questions. And then, yeah, go ahead. You're welcome to read that.
A good and bad field. Monks, a seed sown in a field that possesses 8 factors does not bring forth abundant fruits. Its fruits are not delicious, and it does not yield a profit. What 8 factors? Here, 1, the field has mounds and ditches. 2, it contains stones and gravel. 3, it is salty. 4, it is not deeply furrowed. 5, it does not have inlets for the water to enter. 6, it does not have outlets for excess water to flow out. 7, it does not have irrigation channels. And 8, it does not have boundaries. A seed sown in a field that possesses these 8 factors does not bring forth abundant fruits. Its fruits are not delicious, and it does not yield a profit. So too, monks, a gift given to ascetics and Brahmins who possess 8 factors is not of great fruit and benefit, and it is not very brilliant or widespread. What 8 factors? Here, the ascetics and Brahmins are of wrong view, wrong intention, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, and wrong concentration. A gift given to ascetics and Brahmins who possess these 8 factors is not of great fruit and benefit, and it is not very brilliant or widespread. Monks, a seed sown in a field that possesses 8 factors brings forth abundant fruits. Its fruits are delicious, and it yields a profit. What 8 factors? Here, 1, the field does not have mounds and ditches. 2, it does not contain stones and gravel. 3, it is not salty. 4, it is deeply furrowed. 5, it has inlets for the water to enter. 6, it has outlets for excess water to flow out. 7, it has irrigation channels. And 8, it has boundaries. A seed sown in a field that possesses these 8 factors brings forth abundant fruits. Its fruits are delicious, and it yields a profit. So too, monks, a gift given to ascetics and Brahmins who possess 8 factors is of great fruit and benefit, and it is extraordinarily brilliant and widespread. What 8 factors? Here the ascetics and Brahmins are of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. A gift given to ascetics and Brahmins who possess these 8 factors is of great fruit and benefit, and it is extraordinarily brilliant and widespread.
Okay, thank you, Yihang. So here, what the Buddha is encouraging you to do is practice generosity with ascetics and teachers, ordained practitioners who are practicing the Eightfold Path, because there they would need to have developed the wisdom to be able to understand it intellectually. They would have needed to reflect on it, to independently verify it, and then they would need to move it into their practice. And if you understand the Eightfold Path, which is something you learned from the very beginning of your journey to enlightenment, you should be able to see other individuals that are practicing this. So if you saw a teacher or a ordained practitioner smoking or hitting animals or drunk or intoxicated or gambling or things like this, you would know that these aren't individuals that would be wise for you to support, because your offerings are going to go to those particular things. But instead, if an individual has established right view, they're practicing right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, they're practicing the way that leads to enlightenment. That's the core central teaching of the Buddha. And in order for somebody to be able to get to enlightenment, they would need to practice that. So if they're practicing it as an ordained practitioner or teacher, then that means they have the wisdom to practice it. They also have the wisdom to share it as teachings, which would then help other people to be able to learn how to get to enlightenment as well. So the Buddha is wisely guiding you in one more way of looking at someone's practice and deciding whether or not to support them with offerings or not. He's giving you all these different ways in terms of looking at their mind, looking at their practice, looking at various aspects and qualities, but you should always do this in a non-judgmental way, just making wise decisions of where to support certain things, because as you're sharing your offerings are going to either be beneficial and help people to learn the teachings of the Buddha or not. And you would like them to be beneficial. That's what's going to produce the merit. So let me know if you guys have any questions here on this particular chapter. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So what I'll do is just say thank you to all of you guys for joining for today's class, whether you join live or you're listening to the replay. Thank you, Yihang, for reading these chapters. That was very helpful to allow me to focus on teaching. So thank you for doing that and offering that. That's generosity right there, to practice your giving your time, effort, and energy and resources without any expectation of anything in return. And you're helping to share the teachings of the Buddha. So that's producing merit. So thank you for that help. Next week in our class here on Saturday, I'm going to be in the next 10 chapters, which is chapters 51 through 60. And we're going to be coming to a close of this group learning program here soon. And then we're going to restart it on July 20th from the very beginning, volume 2, chapters 1 through 10. And you can always acquire these books to be able to help you to learn either before or after class, because there's much that can be learned through reading the book and also coming to class. I can't teach you every single aspect of the discourses of the Buddha in a class like this, that we only have a limited amount of time. So you've got the books in the classes so that when you're coming to class, you can ask any questions that you like. Tomorrow in the group learning program, I'm going to be in volume 1, chapter 9, which is titled, What is Karma and How Does It Affect Me? So you're always welcome to attend that class as well. And then this Monday, I'm going to be starting with an entire course from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, where I'm going to be teaching you experiencing the jhanas and the 4 stages of enlightenment. This is a course I only teach twice a year, and it's going to be recorded in live stream, so you're always welcome to attend it and or listen to the recordings. So thank you for attending. Thank you for your interest and dedication to learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha. And perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee-ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.